You're listening to CAAT Tales, the podcast of SLC Faculty Local 417, your union connection. Each episode, we bring you real stories from our members, practical tips on your rights, and the kind of information that helps us all move forward.
This is CAAT Tales, and I'm your host, Julie White. And today, we've got a treat. We're officially launching Part-Time and All In, created with our part-time and sessional faculty front and center. We're also featuring a member spotlight with James Dupuis from Game Programming. Think creativity meets code meets community. But before all that, we're starting off with another edition of Getting to Know Your LEC. Steward Chris Trimmer is up first, so we'll slide right into that conversation. All right, so Chris, you're ready for the rapid fire.
I'm not really sure what I'm ready for, but I'm ready.
10 randomly selected questions. A few of them are starting to be repeats, so if you've been listening to the show, you may have a bit of an idea of what's coming.
Okay.
You can be fluent in every language or have the ability to talk with animals. Which would you prefer?
Gosh. I'm going to say talk with animals.
All right. What about you surprises people when they get to know you?
What would surprise people? I'm going to say calm demeanor.
Hey, what's your favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving. Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm going to pivot. I'm going to say Christmas because it's Thanksgiving and more. So usually like the food, I love the tradition of the turkey, all that great food that comes along with it. And then Christmas, the joy of like kids get pretty excited about it, you know.
Okay, who is your hero?
I don't have a hero. Yeah, it's a little bit of a philosophy that like I think heroes tend to be more for the young, and so certainly lots of mentors or mentors. But yeah, I'm gonna say no hero at this point.
Have you ever planned a prank days in advance and pulled it off?
No, I tend to be if I think prank like April Fools, it's usually like the night before, the morning of.
All right, so you're a last minute pranker.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, what's the weirdest thing that you've Googled during work hours?
Boy, I don't know if I would even remember. I'm sure it would be something like, you know, when you're at work and you're about to go home and the like, I don't know, toilet's not working. So it's like home remedies for backed up toilets, something like that.
Okay, would you choose a room full of snakes or a room full of spiders?
Which would I prefer? I guess room full of snakes. Because when I was an undergrad, because I've been in psychology for so long, I worked on the fourth floor, and almost every psych department of the university has like a animal kind of floor. And so I used to work up there as a janitor, and they had snakes up there too. It was not for testing, but like they just has a herpetarium up there. I think that's what it's called. So I would be handling the snake. So I got used to it, where spiders, I have not had that experience. So I feel a little bit more comfortable with snakes.
Do you have a hidden talent or hobby that most colleagues don't know about?
Yeah, maybe musician. And so, yeah, play a few different instruments, one of which is called a theremin that I used to play in a band in town.
Instrument is.
Yeah, it was the first electronic instrument invented by a Russian scientist, and you play it without actually touching it. It's the proximity of your hand to one antenna determines the pitch, and then the other determines the volume. And you would probably know it from like 1950s sci-fi movies. It's got that kind of sound to it. Or in Good Vibrations, the Beach Boys used one there.
Neat as that. All right. What's the best advice that you've ever received?
Best advice. That would be keep your stick on the ice. Yeah, no, best advice would be, yeah, I guess just be you. Yeah, kind of be true to yourself. I had a mentor that would say that periodically, and I always thought that was just amazing advice. Could be anyone else.
Well, we're focusing on you being you. We're moving from the rapid fire now and into your profile. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into teaching at St. Lawrence?
Yeah, so I don't know how much background, but the quick story is I did my undergrad down in the States. I was in psychology, loved it. I did a fifth year thesis there in music and psychology because a prof there was like, I know you like music. you could do this. And actually it was this was like 2004. It was this like really proto AI. It's really funny that we're going through all this now because it was like the beginning seeds of that back then with these connectionist networks. And so I was like, this is awesome. I really like this, like music and psychology. So I wound up doing a master's in it. I came to Queens to do that. So I came to Kingston and then I started a PhD, dropped out of the PhD, felt it wasn't for me, did a couple things. Then I started working on the crisis team here in town at Addictions Mental Health Services. So I did that for like 8 or 9 years. So that was like lots of clinical background doing that. During that, me and a coworker started up a music group at the organization just as a way to connect with clients who traditionally wouldn't really they just turn the other way basically when we'd come into homeless shelter or other places around town. And so our manager, who was great, and she was just like, whatever you guys can think of to do that might help connect, I'm all ears. And so a little bit selfishly, we're like, can we do a music group? Like we could play music at work. And so it seemed to help. That was the first thing we noticed. Like, wow, people aren't walking away from us. They're like looking forward to this. And so that kind of snowballed. So we started running a group at Providence Care. And we had like all these really cool opportunities in town. And our agency was very supportive. And then the crisis psychiatrist at the time, Dr. Naeem, he was like, hey, this could be a PhD project. I was like, yeah, yeah. So I thought about it really hard and then decided to take another kick at the can and doing it. So I did my PhD while working there, and that all culminated in graduating during COVID. So I stopped working at the crisis team, got the PhD. I worked during COVID times like Canadian Mental Health Association, CAMH, the big research hospital. And then, I really wanted to like be working with people again, like in person as much as possible and in town. Those were all in Toronto, different areas. So I also taught at Queens in between the PhD and crisis team. So I just applied at St. Lawrence and now I have a faculty position with the behavioral psychology program.
Excellent. So that music therapy is definitely kind of coursing through your blood as well.
Yeah, I really like it. I, I have to be careful not to say it's music therapy because
Okay.
music therapists wouldn't be too happy about that, which is fair because they go through a lot of specific training to do that. So really what the group and which became the PhD project, was providing CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy psychoeducation through music. So basically what I do is just turn everything I could into music, like musicalize it. So, and if anyone in the listening audience has familiarity with CBT, there's very specific things about like your thought records, doing behavioral experiments. So I would just attach music to all those things and making it a little bit more understandable, a little bit more easy to connect with. So it's like I'd always think like the Mary Poppins, like spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. So spoonful of music helps the CBT go down, kind of thing. Yeah.
Gotta love that. All right. So what is it that you enjoy about teaching at St. Lawrence?
The students by far, yeah. I really it was kind of in contrast to Queens, where especially our program, like I usually, every year I've been here, it's my third or fourth year now. I teach them in a course first year, first semester. And then so I kind of see how they progress through the 4 years. And it's pretty amazing to see as a cohort how they develop and progress and learn. But also there's a lot of individual students who really make some big kind of giant steps forward. Things that might have been challenging for them in first or second semester, first year, they really hit their stride like second, third, fourth year. And I really like seeing that because I think that was the kind of student that I was. Like it always took me a little bit to get my feet kind of on the ground. So yeah, I like it when I see students kind of identifying like, okay, I know how to do this. I can do this.
So how did you get involved with Local 417?
I think there was a couple things where had some interactions with stewards. And through that process, I learned more about like what the local was doing, representing the membership, not just in a like kind of theoretical way, but like actually the support that's provided, connections that are made. And it just seemed like I'd like to help out with that. because I found that support very valuable. And then, so I believe was talking with Jillian. I think she had a good understanding of my background. And so it became a discussion of starting up a data group. So I teach stats in my program. So she had a vision, a very cool vision of starting a data group for the local that would help kind of in a very broad way, just better facilitate the goals of the local and representing the membership and using at times like a data informed approach, which is huge because the most recent Kaplan award, arbitration award, made some very specific identification of like the need to share data from employer to local. And that was kind of a game changer of being able to implement something like this. Because it's like we get the data now, but what can we do with it? How can we make our goals more achievable through this process? So and by doing that, she kind of built out this kind of, I won't say super group, but like something in that vein. Like she kind of handpicked people at the college who she felt would be interested in doing this, also have some pretty amazing skill sets in various like realm of data approach, like analytics and like crunching data. And so now there's a team of 5 people and we're pretty new. We really got started last semester, but we're still trying to figure out how we're going to do things and the role that we play within the local. But things are looking pretty good as to having a positive impact. Yeah.
Great. So you're giving back not just in that one-on-one approach with people when they've got questions or perhaps when they're facing challenges, but also being able to put those kind of stats-based and technology-based skills to the test as well.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, everything's in flux, but it's actually it's not as much one-on-one. It's like more like bigger picture, like more systems based. Like, we got all this timetable data. It used to be publicly available, like just on the website. It's not anymore, but the data group now can get that data and we can look at everybody's timetable or timetables across the college. And by using some of these pretty cool tools that are available to us now, we can kind of see, okay, where are there instances where people are like working too much in a day, like going beyond the different like kind of stipulations of the collective agreement, say like, look, we're not supposed to be working beyond an 8-hour day in any one day. Um, and so otherwise that would be combing through page after page, and it's not the easiest kind of printouts to read, these PDFs that we get provided. But now through some great work of the data group team members, we can get an output that says, all right, here's the people who we might want to have a conversation with to just let them know that, you might not have to do this as per the terms of the collective agreement. And then it's up to them. Maybe they want to do that. Maybe that's just the best setup for them. But it's kind of one of those knowledge is power kind of ideas that we may not have had access to at least all that information in the past. And so I think there's some excitement, if not just in the local right now, about how this could be beneficial for our membership.
Excellent. And have you had other locals reaching out to you yet to say, hey, how do we do this?
No, not yet. Although I think someone shared recently that maybe this is not what every local has just yet. So yeah, I mean, certainly be happy to share. But yeah, I mean, we're also still trying to figure it out, like, because we don't exactly have a model to go off of. But that's kind of the fun part too.
Yeah, and the fact that we've got so many people with such deep skills and kind of across so many different areas too, like critical thinking just kind of explodes.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like we're not that far into the group as being a group, but already just seeing and most, if not all, the people in the group hadn't met in the college, like very different kind of areas of teaching. But yeah, it already feels like a kind of super group of like people are bringing some pretty high level skills
That's
to
awesome.
the group.
I love it. And in terms of being a steward, clearly you're happy in that role.
Yeah, definitely. It's also been like I really like the purpose of the role, like to advocate for our membership and support them. That's something that was kind of familiar to me from the crisis team. Obviously very different, but like, so working with people and then, yeah, it's also a great way to just connect. Like I said, like people I probably may not have run into at the college.
Now for part-time and all-in with Dale Gartshore.
As work to mobilize our part-time and sessional faculty gets underway, we're thrilled to introduce a new segment, Part-Time and All In. I'm happy to introduce Dale Gartshore from Local 125. Welcome, Dale. Can you tell us a little bit about your role?
I work at Lambton College in Sarnia. I've been with the college system now for 12 years. I started out with a support staff contract like many of our faculty members and moved into faculty work from there. So I've been lucky enough to have some time at partial load. I've had the primarily part-time faculty, which I love. I do have a job outside the college system, so that meets my needs well. The college support part-time organized back in 2018. I joined my local, got moved into the provincial dynamic, and ended up spending some time as the DivX chair and the chair for the employee-employer relationship committee, which were two wonderful things. I enjoyed my time in part-time support and continued on up until a change in my career, which brought me back into the faculty world at the same time that we were seeing the certification of the vote for part-time and sessional faculty. So this summer, we had our initial meeting and had a vote. We elected both a divisional executive and a bargaining team. I was fortunate enough to be selected for the divisional executive, and that's the role I'm in now. And I'm using that role to meet a number of our members in different colleges, St. Lawrence being one of them.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, first of all. And what you're approaching right now must feel familiar to you, given that you've been through it kind of on that part-time support staff side.
Well, I would say every time you do something like this, it's bound to be different. We're in a different climate than we were back when part-time support was in their early stages. The college system, as everybody knows, is under attack. So yes, it is familiar, and I did put my name forward with the hope that I could help as this division grew to miss some of the pitfalls that befell our part-time support staff counterparts, but also with open eyes, knowing that this will be different. We are a different division, and we're in a different college system.
Right. Same employer, though.
Same employer, the College Employer Council, who I've sat with a number of times, most with EERC, the Employee-Employer Relationship Committee, sit with them and talk about how the system is working. That is has been a bit of a frustrating experience, I will admit. As much as I do believe in that collaboration, there has been frustration. And I've also been on a bargaining team. I was on the bargaining team for the 2021 agreement for part-time support and the Bill 124 follow-up agreement, which, of course, I'm sure none of us can forget Bill 124 and the Ford government's opinion about us and the work that we do and how we should be compensated.
Okay, so let's go back to 2017. As a part-time, you took part in an important vote.
I sure did. In October of 2017, we had the part-time and sessional college faculty vote on union certification. Imagine that, October 2017. Shortly after that vote, the College Employer Council challenged it. It challenged the votes and the voter lists. The ballot boxes were sealed in 2017. Between 2017 and August of 2024, they remained sealed. So the challenges that the CEC had posted were being fought one at a time. They had been addressed by that point, and that included vetting every single voter. Not every member understands that when a vote occurs, that there are two different lists. There are those voters that the college employee, as an employer, agrees and the union agrees that are voters. And then there's a subsequent list of people that are being challenged. When that occurs and votes are counted, which is what happened on April 11th, the vote is tabulated amongst the voters that are not challenged. And when there's enough positive or negative in that count, they don't need to move into the challenged list. So they don't go looking for work that they don't need to if those challenged voters won't change the results. That was the case for our result, and it was not necessary to count because 71% of part-time and sessional faculty voted in favor of unionization.
And now I remember October 2017 or the fall of 2017 as a full-time faculty member. And having that vote at the same time is pretty significant.
It's very significant. There are 4 divisions in the college sector. There's full-time and part-time support, and now there's full-time partial load and part-time sessional faculty. So for the first time, every worker in that system is unionized. They are under OPSU, but strength is gained by working together. So when you talk about that October 2017 strike, I remember well, I was on a line at one of our satellite camps in Lambton supporting my full-time colleagues and walking my first picket line and learning about union power.
Is there anything that you picked up there that...
Absolutely. And we use it in the union world, the term solidarity. And it's a bit of a catch-all that we all use, sign off our emails within solidarity. But when you feel it in action, it changes how you look at the people you work alongside. It changes how you look at the employer. And for me, it changed my understanding of what power I could have in that system. And it's not okay to settle for less than we are, for less than we deserve, and less for our communities and our students deserve. And if we don't seize that, it's lost. So that's, I believe, what I picked up on that line and in subsequent strike lines I've been on, and even in the day-to-day activities of the roles I've had in the part-time support division.
And now that, it took a long time for that ballot box to be reopened and counted. So what was kind of the reaction once that happened?
When you wait for something so long, it's quite a buildup, and then it's an explosion of excitement, but then you're left with a what happens now feeling. And that's where we were. That's where we were last year as far as great, we're certified on a vote that took that long to count, 8 years to get processed. And it's a question of momentum. Where does it go? What do we have left? Who remembers?
Yeah, and how many people would remember? How many current part-time folks do we have that were part of the vote?
Well, and I don't have an exact number, and I don't want to guess at that number, but I can tell you with the precarity that comes with a part-time and sessional faculty role, a lot of those people are gone. I would love to say that they all transitioned into full-time faculty jobs, but we know that's not true.
Yeah. And we also know that the number of part-time faculty has exploded as well.
That is what we're seeing. Most specifically, I will address that partial load appears to be under attack by this employer. The partial load numbers are shrinking while our part-time numbers are growing. And that means they're taking jobs that are more secure, that have more benefits, that are addressed in that collective agreement already, and reducing them to try to increase the precarious worker number. April of 2025 was when we finally got the news that we had been successful. And I want to take a minute to say that this has been driven in great part by full-time faculty. The full-time and partial load faculty have driven this, and we owe them a debt of gratitude, and we continue to work with them as we build our division because that strength is, again, it's in solidarity.
And that division is now embedded within the locals that are already established in the colleges.
Exactly. Each college had a local, so there are 24 local full-time and partial load. Faculty locals is what existed prior to that vote being counted. Once that was successful in our favor, all of those locals became composite locals. So they are now made up of members from 2 divisions, that being our full-time division and our part-time division. Counselors and librarians are all wrapped up there too, and they are under assault as well. It is a very active group watching what's happening, and the erosion of the work they do, the time and education they've put into growing themselves in their careers are being attacked. Believe the infamous book vending machine will be familiar to your listeners.
Yes, it is. And we certainly lost our full-time librarian shortly after that 2017 strike as well. So that was a huge loss for us. Okay, so we have composite locals now. We have a collective agreement for the full-time partial load and counselors, librarians. So talk to me a little bit about what the part-time sessional DivX is doing and what's happening kind of on that organizing and bargaining side.
Absolutely. Hopefully, members in the college community have seen posters or at least heard through visits that we've done as divisional executive to general membership meetings that we're on a roadshow. We're calling it a roadshow, and we are coming to all 24 colleges. We want to have in-person meetings with our members. This is such a change, and it needs to be explained. It needs to be done in a way that promotes relationships. We want to know our members. As a divisional executive, we can't represent people we don't know. And if we aren't having those conversations, we're left wondering what it is that would make the college system better for each one of our members. So we're coming to the colleges, 2-day visits to each college. There are 5 divisional executive members, and at least one will be coming to each college. We're bringing with us a member of the bargaining team. We have a part-time and sessional bargaining team that was elected at the same meeting as your DivX, and they are coming with us so that you can ask specific questions to those bargaining team members. I'm not on that team, so I'm careful not to answer questions for them. They are very good at what they do, and I will leave it to them. I think we're going to invite one of them to join us in this podcast later on so that you can get it firsthand.
Excellent. And what sorts of things are you talking about kind of on the roadshow?
The single most important factor right now for your divisional executive is to have membership signings. We need every member to fill out our electronic membership form. I might refer to that as the EMF as we go on. We need those forms signed. It is a twofold reason. First of all, signed members help the local. Number of signed members in a local, and again, it can be from either division, contributes to the local's voice in the provincial scape. When you have more signed members, you have a larger delegate count. Those delegates are important at regional meetings where you choose your executive board members, as well as convention where the business of OPSU at large is taking place. We want to have the maximum delegate counts from our locals so we can have a voice in constitutional changes, in who will be president of OPSU, and all of those important things. So that is one of the key benefits at the local level for signed EMFs. Provincially, it's about numbers and power. And those are 2 different things. First off, we need the numbers. When the employer, and they know everything, let's be clear, they are watching, they are listening, they know what is happening in our locals, and they know what OPSU is doing to mobilize in the colleges. But that's okay. We want them to know. I want them to know. I want them to be scared. I want them to think that every part-time sessional faculty member cares about what's happening with their job, cares about what's going to happen with the development of a first collective agreement, and cares about our students. It's a larger community that we represent, not just ourselves. And in order to get information to our members, we need them to sign those forms because that's what gives us personal information as far as an email that we can trust that doesn't belong to your employer. Because I'm happy to make them work for the information they get. I don't want to do it over a college system where they can poach whatever they like. So we would love to keep our members informed, let them know what's happening next, and how they can show their support.
Okay. And that voice is absolutely crucial when it comes to developing, especially a first contract.
Absolutely. I was an alternate on the bargaining team for the first collective agreement in part-time support, and I can tell you that process was arduous. It was long, it was drawn out, and the result is a collective agreement that I think is fair to say is lesser than all of those members wished it was. That collective agreement is strength. The words that are in there is what you can hold your employer to. It is the rights that you have enshrined that apply to all members, and it can't be understated how important that first collective agreement is. It's what we build on moving forward in every negotiation. And I'm of the opinion that they stole 8 years of negotiating from us, and we need to get it back.
In terms of having a collective agreement, that's going to be the point when dues start getting collected, right? So people aren't necessarily going to know that they are members of the union by looking at their paycheck.
Not right now. Those union dues are important, and nobody likes to have anything removed from their paycheck, but I can tell you OPSU, as a union, has significantly lower dues than comparable unions out there in the sector, and our money is well spent. I know there's always a case to say decisions can be evaluated and whether it meets your personal idea of what good value is, but I can tell you in the college sector right now with the Save Our Colleges campaign, with the OPSU staff that is assigned to helping us get the word out to our communities and to our members. We are well-resourced, and we are trying to make change in this sector. And we've seen it with the most recent announcement of funding changes, although I disagree with the movement of the cost of post-secondary back on our students. We support them in their outrage with that and the reduction of OSAP. Not what we were fighting for, and we understand that that's not the change that we're going to settle for. There's more work to be done. Our colleges have seen record layoffs, and the education we provide on a daily basis is under attack.
Okay. And in terms of people paying dues, everyone's going to pay dues, whether or not they've signed their union card.
Absolutely. Everyone is a member of OPSU that works in one of those part-time or sessional faculty roles. Dues will eventually be subtracted once the collective agreement is ratified, and those dues go to OPSU Central to be used for the larger OPSU work, but then are remitted back to our locals so they can do work at their college for the members that are paying those dues.
And what about the precariousness of it? How do you, and I know it's something that we've struggled with from a local perspective, is being able to reach out and to identify, you get the lists that are required to be submitted every once in a while, but being able to reach out to folks and especially we're spread across 3 different campuses, knowing who they are, it changes semester to semester. How do you kind of address some of that challenge?
So it's interesting that you described the change that happens every semester. It's like organizing again. Every time the semesters roll over, we look at a new slate of part-time employees, sessional employees that are brought into the college system and currently with no discernible pattern as to who is offered employment and hours. And that needs to change. Precarity undermines power for unions. What that means is our members are, like you mentioned, spread out. Their employment is uncertain. They need to find employment in another field or in another area with another employer. It makes it more difficult for the union to stay in contact with its members. And what that does is drive the power out of the union members' hands and into the employer's hands. And what it does is give managers an unfair ability to hold our part-time sessional staff to unsafe working conditions, doing hours that are unpaid, funding classes by the number of students rather than the time that's being allotted by that member. And then it gets worse when you consider access to partial load jobs through the registry that our full-time and partial load counterparts fought so hard to get, only to see it attacked so that there's having a registry that there is no one to put on it because they've moved those jobs out of partial load. So we consider all of those things in precarity, and we're trying to reduce that. We're trying to say it's not okay to offer that to your employees. There was a My Work Is Not Free campaign that our support staff counterparts ran because what they were finding was people were working through their breaks. They were working on their lunch. They were doing work past time that wasn't being compensated. And they sought to monetize that to determine what that was worth. And it was staggering what we're giving to a college system that doesn't reciprocate.
Respect.
Absolutely. I remember when I started with the colleges, and that as soon as you start with, I remember when.
The good stories come right out. Now, come on.
Always makes me giggle. But I remember when getting a college job felt like an absolute win, that you could be part of something for your career. You could invest. You could feel like you were part of a community that was bigger than just getting a job. And I would love to go back to that. And we don't get that through precarity.
And it's interesting because it wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't. Like I said, I'm 12 years in this role, and it was a different college system back then.
Yeah.
I started in 2014, so that was ahead of that faculty strike, which is a watershed moment. And we know that every time we have the opportunity and do exercise as labor, our power, that employers take notice and they do whatever they can to erode that power moving forward so it doesn't happen again.
You've seen kind of the support staff, part-time support staff get unionized under OPSU. You're now seeing the part-time faculty being unionized too. So now we're all under OPSU. What does that mean to you?
For me, it's a CAAT family. Colleges of Applied Arts and Technology. It's the CAAT family. And when the more closely we are supportive of one another, the more strength we have. And I know from being on the full-time support strike line in the fall of last year, the days when faculty were out supporting, speaking at rallies, holding signs, it meant the world to me to see that, to see all, knowing that every person that worked for the college was unionized, was under OPSU, and was supporting one another, was kind of a culmination of everything I'd hoped to see from my union work. So many hands went into making that a possibility that it's breathtaking, the power we can have.
Just by coming together through solidarity.
Absolutely, by coming together. And absolutely, there's going to be areas where our divisions cross over. I work in both support part-time and as a part-time sessional faculty member. I see it. I know that, and it's. I'm not going to not acknowledge that. There's absolutely, but we can figure that out. I know that we can figure that out. But when the employer pits us against one another, we do the work for them.
I love that. Okay. Excellent. What advice would you have to give to some of those part-time folks at St. Lawrence College? Because we're always looking to boost our numbers.
Always looking. So are we. The union is an opportunity, and that's how I look at it. It's an opportunity to have your voice locally. That's what most directly affects your day-to-day life, how things are in your college, how things are with your manager, how things are amongst your colleagues, and you want to maximize that. The best way to do that is to become active in your local. That daily presence of supporting one another builds a strong local. And you'll have officers that are doing the heavy lifting, they're doing the day-to-day grind, but those individual members showing up at a general membership meeting and guiding your group gets you where you should be. It's the smaller numbers, if they're directing it, we know that it's our best effort to get where everybody wants to go. But when you get every voice speaking up, you know you're getting there.
And you get a lot out of it personally as well.
Absolutely. I've noticed as the colleges have changed and we see more layoffs, the group is getting tighter, and I would like to think more tightly knit.
Yeah. Not just reduced numbers.
No, not just reduced numbers. And I know if we do have full-time and partial load members listening, take a look at your CESC, College Employment Stability Committee language. Understand the protections that are there. Talk to the members from your local that are on that committee about what it takes to keep people working, what it takes to process these layoffs, how many hours they put into making sure every member's collective agreement rights are maintained. And we see the results of it. In the local, you'll see the results. There'll be people that aren't in their same position that are no longer with the college, and you see the loss. But what you don't see is the win or the strength that keeps our members working and protects those rights. That is a process everybody needs to understand to really appreciate what's being done on behalf of members.
I know when we talk about the CESC and it does have a real focus of protecting positions and largely this is where protecting full-time positions comes in. But the recognition of what's happening to partial load and what's been happening to partial load over the last few years is certainly something that isn't getting lost on anyone. So we've had a number of people who were partial load who have completely left the college, and that is a huge loss. We've also seen a number that have been kind of their hours are reduced to part-time, and their voices that they have to bring is so important and continue to be important.
Well, yes, and I wouldn't presume to speak about the good work of the divisional executive for full-time and partial load. I will only give them praise for the amount of time and effort they've put into that. What I will say is what I'm seeing in our part-time and sessional members are story after story of people who were partial load, who thought they were on the progress to a full-time position, that believed the college valued them and wanted to see them prosper in those roles, that have been reduced in hours and treated with less care than our members deserve.
So I know in December there was a really exciting event happening. Can you talk a little bit about that?
We had a summit where we brought the leaders from all divisions together at head office and did some sitting down and growing together. It was an educational-based summit But the real value was at the tables. We put locals together, and you would have the support and faculty locals from similar sized college sitting around the table, understanding each other's plight, because in those different sized colleges, you feel the same things a lot of the time. But they could build relationships, and those relationships are what's going to take us forward. So that was a first of its kind summit with all 4 CAATs together, being led by the divisional executives of the 4 groups, which was incredible.
Yes. I attended that one online, and it was absolutely fantastic. And JP was so engaging.
I couldn't say enough about the speakers they brought in, and even the individuals from each of the DivXs that spoke up and promoted the discussion. Nothing like it I've seen in my time in the CAAT leadership, to see all those groups together. And it was pivotal because at the time we were there, we had just seen the end of the full-time support strike. The part-time support had had their strike vote, and we're getting ready to go sit with Mediator Kaplan. There was so much going on, and such a vibrant conversation about power, about involvement, about how to get our members that are feeling lost or scared for their jobs involved and starting to guide instead of just being along for the ride.
And that was the start of the conversation.
Absolutely.
And certainly the part-time members are the people who are out working in the communities. They've got connections, like they bring so much to the education of our students.
Absolutely. And I understand as a part-time faculty member with a job outside the college that I'm not looking to move into full-time. And that's not my goal. I love what I do on a part-time basis, and I want to gain some protections in that role. So it's not always about a transition to full-time or partial load for our members. Some of them are doing exactly what they want to do, and they want to stay in the communities, but it should be on their terms, not as a stick to be used by the college that if you don't do our bidding or you don't do things the way we decided without rights, you can just go back to that and we don't need you here. We want to get past that. We want to be collaborative in our careers and make the most of them, whether it is to stay as a sessional or part-time faculty member or try and become a full-time or partial load member.
Yeah. And not having contracts dangled in front of your nose and withdrawn the week before classes start or...
Well, and absolutely. I know the taste of having a course that I taught for a very long time, go to someone else without explanation. And they look at the hours that I worked and decide, no, I think we need to reduce Dale a little bit, and it changes. And I can honestly say I've had good relationships with my managers and my leaders over the years, but there's nothing that beats a collective agreement. And I like having rules of the game, and everybody knows how things are to be done, and you can hold your managers to account when they don't.
And managers and leaders change over time too.
They certainly do.
And now, another fun episode of Is It a Gripe or a Grievance?
Hi, Jillian. My associate dean knows about my religious faith. I've told them how important it is for me to attend prayer at the mosque on Friday afternoons, and have repeatedly noted that I am happy to make up those 2 hours elsewhere in the week. But I just got my timetable and I've got scheduled classes on Friday afternoons. The associate dean says it is unfortunate, but for this semester, I am simply going to have to change my prayer time. Can they do this?
No. Grieve. Oh, no. Absolute violation of Article 4, human rights, and a whole bunch of other things. Prayer times are sacred to a lot of us. And if we don't have the time, there needs to be an accommodation request made. If you haven't done an official accommodation request, then you need to do one. Prayer times are often changeable. So usually, well, at least for my religion, based on sunset. And so we can sometimes request a timetable change, especially in winter semester. That's pretty radical because sunset's pretty early. And yeah, I know in April, it's not going to be that way, but unless they want to start changing students' times to be movable weekly, they're going to make that accommodation. But you have to do an official accommodation request. And no, they cannot just suddenly decide that, sorry, this timetable needs to be the way it is. Push back, contact a steward, and it's an absolute violation of the collective agreement.
And now it's time for another edition of Member Spotlight.
In today's Member Spotlight, I'm thrilled to introduce James Dupuis, the driving force behind the game programming program at our Cornwall campus. As a professor and coordinator of the program, he's shaping the next generation of game creators with equal parts expertise and enthusiasm. Welcome to the podcast, James. What's the first job you ever had? Ever.
Golf technical job in county employment. I guess I used to pick golf balls out of the bushes and sell those and clean them up and sell them, but that wasn't like an employment job. I guess my first employment job, questionably paper boy or working as a gas attendant at a full service gas bar.
Awesome. What's your most used keyboard shortcut?
Control S. I save constantly. It's something, I've just learned to do. I save Control C, Control X followed, but Control F is probably realistically the one I use the most.
Okay. What's the first album that you bought?
I'm not a music person, honestly. I dislike music a lot. I'm the type of person who would rather listen to just talk radio than anything. It's not that, I have no tune for music. But the first music, I've only bought a few in my life probably, but the first one I bought probably was, like, sad to say, I don't know, TLC's. I don't even know what the name of the album.
What's your most productive day of the week?
I don't know. I've never thought about which one's most productive. Probably Mondays right now, because I don't have any classes.
There you go. What's one word to describe your current mood?
It's a good question. I don't know. I'm terrible, I guess. Current mood. Is there any a lack of mood kind of mood that you would say?
You're
I don't know.
chill. You're just chill.
Chill. There you go. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
What's your least favorite chore?
My least favorite chore, probably sweeping. Yeah.
Inbox 0 or 5,000 emails unread?
I'm certain it's not 0, but I keep on top of it. It's just I have some of the junk that I don't read, so it's probably unread. But generally 0 almost all the time.
Okay.
1 it looks like right now.
Well, that's impressive. What's your favorite smell?
Favorite smell. I like the smell of tires. I don't know why, but I like the smell of tires. And I don't know, something chocolatey probably.
What's the favorite app on your phone?
Find out. Right now, it looks like it's between the top 2 are Amazon shopping list and Cheststock.
Okay. And you honestly didn't know what my next question was, but what's the last thing you bought online?
I think it was swim shorts for my son. I think that's what it was, yeah.
All right. So, James, you've been at the college as long as I have. So you started teaching full-time in 2017?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Can you kind of walk me through what and how you got into teaching at St. Lawrence College? Just share a little bit about your background.
Yeah, it was the winter I started. I think it was in the January. So I went to the college. I was a student of the college, and I graduated in 2007, I think 10 years before that or so. I took the computer engineering technologist and technician program, and graduated from that, and I just wanted to work in the industry. So then I applied out to a bunch of places. I worked in the industry for about 10 years, and then at the time, so the games industry is sometimes hard on families. So I have my son and my wife, and I was looking to kind of get out of game development a little bit and move into software development or something else and get back towards, we're from Cornwall, so move back towards our home. Then in terms of that, I was reaching out to a bunch of places, to Ottawa, Cornwall, and Gord at the time was my old coordinator, Gordon McKay. He coordinated that program that I took, and I reached out to him, and then I said, if you see or hear any opportunities coming up for programming jobs or anything like that in the area, or in Ottawa or Montreal or something, just let me know. And he said, you should probably just keep an eye on the future on the SLC website jobs. Keep looking there, and there might be something that comes up there too. At that point, I started looking, keeping an eye on it, and like a few months later, there was a posting for the game programming program. So, and so I applied to that, and I honestly thought I didn't get it after my first interview. I thought I was done, because it took a while to hear back. I've never had so long between an interview and hearing back. And then they flew me in for my interview process, and then I guess I did well enough, and then they hired me on full-time straight away, which I know is pretty rare. I think a lot of people come through doing part-time first and then get hired on full-time. But I don't know. I got lucky, I guess. But that's how I started.
And were you a kid who had a passion for video games? And
yeah, I've been playing games probably since I was 5 or 6. So yeah. Lots of love for video games.
Did you ever have a parent that said, that's not going to be how you'll ever make a living?
I don't know if they ever said that. They probably weren't, they weren't thinking that it would lead to anything in the future. But I think it was honestly in high school, I wanted to be more of an animator, more of the art side of things. But then we didn't really have anything locally for that for college. And then I liked computers as well. So I took the computer engineering stuff. And then for my capstone, I ended up making a game for my project. Yeah, it just kind of went from there. So I wanted to probably, since I was in high school, I would say, work on games in some capacity. I just didn't know in what way.
And it was just an industry that was just starting to kind of really get underway, isn't it?
Yeah, it picked up for sure. In that time frame, back when I entered the workforce, there was no game programming programs in colleges or universities or anything like that. Generally, you were just being hired as a programmer, software engineer, and it was what they were looking for.
So you've been in it now and teaching it for almost 10 years.
Yeah, correct. I think about 9. So when I came in, it was a game programming program, but we did have an existing. Well, it was game development technician when I came in, and then a few years later, we did remapping. We've done remapping twice now, I think, since I've been on. But yeah, we renamed it to game programming at that point.
And how do you stay on top of kind of what this industry, like it's developing so fast? I know we talk about what's the future of work with AI, but your world, it's like.
I mean, it's still new. It's still very much new to game development as well. Like we have AI, but that's a separate AI. What we have in games, like it's not generative AI. So yeah, for me, keeping on top of it is I have friends that are still in the industry. Like I made a lot of friends while I was there, and they've spawned out or spread out to a whole bunch of different studios. So I kind of get their inputs all the time. I have meetings with them every second Tuesday. We catch up. So just friendly meetings, not like work meetings, but we just catch up. They tell me, we talk about everything, like life and everything. But yeah, they give me some things. I can ask questions if there's new trends or whatnot, and then I just develop as a hobby on the side too, just to make sure I'm like you said, on top of things. Otherwise, it would be impossible to stay on top of it if I didn't. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
It changes year to year.
And in terms of the students that you see coming in, do you see any trends with them?
I mean, yes, there's always going to be, I think, trends every year. I don't know. There's an interesting kind of, like you said, AI is always, and that's for everybody, I'm sure, AI usage. And I think that's just, for me, my take is just about making sure that they're using it in an informed way and that they're not using it to do the work, but they're using it to learn. If they're learning and they can prove to me that they have the knowledge in their brain and they can articulate what they've learned, to me, that's okay for them using AI. It's if they get it to do the work and they don't understand what it did, that's clearly the problem. So that's generally my approach with teaching in AI. So it's a bit of a hard one because I think right now the high school systems are just treating it like it doesn't exist kind of thing. And I'm not sure that's the best approach for me personally. And so I don't know whether they have that understanding coming in. So that's a trend that we may see change. I don't know. But right now, and there's some hesitancy. There's a mix. So there's some that really want to use it and some that I don't want to use it at all and I refuse to use it type of thing. I'm seeing trends in math. I would say a little bit of concern that the math level might be kind of lowering a bit. So that would be another trend that I think we're seeing. Other than that, I'm not really sure I see many more.
Are most of your students coming in right after secondary school, or are they taking some time coming more mature?
It's a mix. I would say the majority of them are probably straight out of high school, but it is a mix. Yeah. So we do get some students that are older than me that I teach and some that are quite a bit younger. And so it's all over the board. But yeah, I hate to say it, but I do think that the maturity of even a few years sometimes helps the students out a little bit. I think there's a lot of learning to happen in between kind of high school and college. And I say that I was a student that started college at 17. So I was definitely very young. And I think I learned a lot in my first year or two that I would have done completely differently in my third and fourth year if I had restarted. So
Yeah, you learn a lot about life in those years.
yeah.
Okay, so still with your students, have you seen any of them go on to do amazing things already?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had some students go to Snowden Studios in Ottawa. I've had one of my students graduated one of my first year teaching. So it was my second year teaching, I believe. He went off to Toronto, worked as a software engineer, and then went to Ubisoft in Toronto, and then came back and taught for us a little bit part-time remotely, and then is now still working remotely, but working for EA. So he's had a good career path so far. And then I've had students go to my dream jobs. So I had a student that got hired at Square Enix, a couple of them, and those are that's the company whose games I really love. And I've had student that almost reverse replicated my career in a sense. She graduated a few years ago, got hired at the company I last left to go to before coming here, and then was there for about a year, and then went on to my first company that I got hired, that I was with for about 8 years. So, and she's now been there a few years. So yeah, that's kind of interesting to see happen. And again, it's nice to see where I have friends out in the industry and they're now working with my students, and they're saying how much they enjoy them. So that's always kind of a great feeling to have as well.
That's always cool. And then when you start to see one of your earlier students working with one of your more recent. Okay, so in terms of the projects that you've worked on, I know I saw somewhere Madden football was one of those projects that you were part of. Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
I did a lot of Madden. I think I did 6 or 7 years iterations version of Madden. I'm not a football fan, surprisingly. So that I call my Maddening days. It was work, right? It's work, and it paid, but I enjoyed the work regardless of what the game was. I enjoyed the work. We did a lot of co-developments with EA. So I did that. I did FIFA Africa World Cup. Yeah, I've done a lot of sports titles to begin with for my career.
Okay.
We primarily co-developed with EA.
So when you're doing the co-development, do you have to listen to the music?
Oh, yeah, there is music. At one point I did the audio implementation. I learned about chyrons, and those were a thing I've never heard of. So we had to do chyrons for the credits. It depends, but I think it's funny because my wife plays games and she turns off the audio, and I'm just like, you're losing out on part of the experience. So, honestly, for music, that is some of my favorite music. Is I have like a YouTube playlist and it's video game music, which is really, really kind of nerdy, I guess, maybe. But yeah,
That's funny.
I do like orchestrated music more so. So yeah.
And when it comes to like chilling, what's the game that you like to play, or do you?
Depends on the amount of time I have, I guess. A lot of games that I play these days are with my son, so it's whatever he wants to play. For me, whenever it's like my own personal time, it's oftentimes just chess on my phone, but Final Fantasy Tactics is another game that I really enjoy. It's probably one of my favorites. It's an older game, but they re-released it recently. And then for games with my son, it can be anywhere from Mario Party to Overwatch to lots of different things. Whatever he's feeling like.
And do you have any advice for anybody wanting to get into the gaming industry?
It's all about your building your portfolio of experiences. So it depends on what role you're trying to get into. That would be my first thing, is just role clarity, understanding what you're getting into and understanding the scope that you want to do. So it depends on the size of the company. The bigger the company gets, the more intricate and like specific or specialization you have to have. The smaller the company gets, the more you might be doing multiple roles. So the general advice, I guess, for anybody applying to any of the roles is that your portfolio is going to be a big part of it. Is that if you want to be a programmer, then you have to do a lot of programming and make games even outside of our schooling here. They need to be on their summers making lots of games, having that experience. So that whenever they ask them questions, they can have relatable experiences that they've solved this problem before or that problem before. The main thing that they're looking for is what's in your brain, right? Your knowledge. So they have to experience that. For an artist, it's going to be portfolio. So they want to see what you've drawn, what you painted, all that stuff. If you're a 3D modeler, making lots of models, anything that you can showcase to show what you've done is going to be important. So you have to be really dedicated. This is the best advice I can give you. You have to live and breathe it pretty much inside school and outside of school.
Okay, so let's say 15 years ago, you're just starting out in industry. Would you ever see yourself in this job today?
Absolutely not. Never. I was the type of student that this is horrible to say too, I would rather take the hit and get a 0 and not present than present. I was terrified, stage fright. And I guess, I don't know if it's the right term, but exposure therapy, I just at the point whenever I was applying to the college, that kind of helped me get over it, where now I have no problems speaking in front of people, but absolutely terrified up until that point. Before that, just, it's weird because, yeah, I would have never thought that I'd be able to do public speaking at all. And now I have no problems doing it. So, yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, there's still some nervousness occasionally, but yeah.
Yeah. And do you see yourself now as a professor?
Yeah, I think there's some imposter syndrome that took a little bit, and I think there always is. I think part of me is like, I I see everybody else as professors or education levels and things like that, and I'm not at that level that everyone else is. So there's always a little bit of kind of imposter syndrome there. But on the same token, I don't think that, I mean, personally, I don't think that necessarily means that you're a better or worse professor all the time. So yeah, it's every now and then it crosses my mind, and you get the imposter syndrome. I definitely had it the first, I don't know, 5 years teaching probably.
Yeah.
But it was the same in the industry for programming. There's a lot of imposter syndrome with that because you can never know everything. And I think that maybe is another part of being a professor in programming. Maybe, I don't know, compared to others, because I've never taught in something else, but it is, it's challenging because you can't know everything. So you have to tell your students right away that I don't know everything. I'm going to have to look some things up. And
That's the absolute
yeah,
best thing we can teach them too, is it's
yeah.
okay to say, I don't know, and go and
Mhm.
find that right answer. So I think that's beautiful. And there's a lot of similarities in terms of your industry. You're talking a lot about troubleshooting, and it's problem
Yeah,
solving. And that's exactly the same thing that we do when we're teaching too, right? So
yeah,
yeah, lots of similarities there. Do you have kind of a best day ever at work that
that's
you
been
recall?
ever.
Like, has there been something that really stands out in your mind?
Like a specific instance, one
An
instance.
instance or a situation that kind of recurs every once in a while?
For me, it's generally whenever I'm helping a student, and you just see that aha moment, or when you're not even teaching them something, but you just subtly do something, and then they pick up on it and note it and go, I didn't know you could do that. And you're just like, oh yeah, and this is really helpful. And then you go on kind of a tangent to explain something to them. So I think those little pieces where it's more spontaneous things rather than prepared things.
Yeah.
But when you see the connections being made, that's the rewarding. And I mean, whenever I go up and I see students that have found their jobs and stuff, that's always rewarding too. I have a student right now who's mentoring our current. He's in the field and he's mentoring our current students in their capstone, and that's nice to see a full circle kind of come around as well,
Yeah.
and see him provide really strong and good advice. That's amazing.
That's great. And is there anything else that you really want to kind of mention to get across in this?
I guess since I have the moment, yeah, I guess maybe just explaining the difference. There's a couple of terms that irk me a little bit every now and then that
Okay.
people use for our program. The gaming program, that drives me nuts a little bit. That it tends to imply that you're playing games, and it diminishes, I think, it kind of takes down what we're doing and kind of almost makes it seem easier than it is.
Okay.
So I that term, the gaming program or the game program or things like that, just kind of bother me slightly. I get it. I get why people say it, and there's different roles. So my concern is always that then it leads to more conversations outside that I can't then help people to navigate in terms of if they are talking or guiding someone to consider our program, that they're considering it because they love games, but also because they love computers and programming. It's kind of a hybrid between all of that. It's a lot less artistic and yeah, less artistic than you would think. There's some nuance a little bit there with that, but overall it's a lot more logical, analytical problem solving,
Okay.
um, and a little bit more like, yeah, writing in a different language. So yeah, that's I guess that was always the confusion that I'd love to straighten out if anybody's listening. But yeah,
It's an important
it's
one.
we specialize in game programming is what we're doing with our graduates.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so we're not like the decision makers. We're not the creative art style type of things. We're the ones that are taking their ideas, taking the art and making it all come to life by making it functional. And then we
Awesome.
take the audio engineers, music and sound effects and hook that all up.
All right.
Yeah. We basically take all the pieces and build something. But yeah.
You're the ones that take the direction and make it happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. That's a good nuance to be aware of. What do you do for fun aside from playing video games with your son?
I work to develop them. I just do it as a hobby on the side as well. So I actually really enjoy making games. So yeah, if I'm not playing games with my son, we watch some Marvel stuff every now and then. So, but for the most part, I'm not a TV watcher or anything like that, unless it's something like that. But I just have my laptop open and just kind of playing around with things and programming. So
All right.
yeah.
Cool. All right. That's great. Thank you so much, James. I appreciate this.
You've been listening to CAAT Tales, stories that matter to faculty and beyond. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, visit slcfaculty.ca, and stay connected with us on social media.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies, positions, or statements of OPSU, CEFPO, St. Lawrence College, or any affiliated organizations. This podcast is provided for informational and educational purposes only. While every effort is made to ensure accuracy, SLC Faculty Local 417 makes no representations or warranties of any kind, express or implied, about the completeness, reliability, or suitability of the information shared. Any reliance placed on such information is strictly at the listener's own risk. Music and sound effects used in this podcast are licensed or royalty-free. We respect copyright law and encourage our listeners to do the same.